if they're, we always say, if you don't have good habits to fall back on, then you're going to fall back on the bad habits. So if you can't fall back on perfection, when your body sort of starts to shut down. So from a neurological standpoint, if your body doesn't know where to go, then we have a big issue on a workout like that.
Right. All I really got from that is the point that you can't fall into a great snatch with fatigued hips. But
hey-o.
Yeah, but I understand. I understand what you're saying.
Did I miss that's what she said on that one? I think I did.
You might have.
I hate myself.
It's terrible when you miss those, but we can move on. But the point I think you're trying to make is you practice it right, and you practice where you can produce the most power, the most efficiently, and then you loosen the technique up a little bit when the bar's really light and try to do it with as little fatigue and as little metabolic cost possible. And then when you get tired and you have to use better technique, you're going to fall back on it. You're going to do it right in a way that you can actually make the heavier weight.
If you watch Froning's Isabel performance from the second portion of the final workout at the games last year, he's done 14 work. That's his 14th workout, right? He's already cleaned. I think he got 355 or something like that on the ladder. He's run 7 miles at Pendleton. He's done all this other stuff. And every snatch that he does on Isabel, I think he does the first 24, 25 reps unbroken. Every single snatch that he does, every power snatch is like a technique. It's like a technique video. Everyone looks the exact same. Every pull's the exact same. Now, he sets his hips higher on that, but you can make the argument that based off his 500-pound deadlift, everything else, that all he's really doing to get the bar off the ground is getting it to his knees. Or all he's doing to snatch the bar when he's pulling off the ground is getting the bar to his knees the easiest possible way, right? So on a workout like that, his technique is not from a 1-rep max standpoint perfect, but once he gets it to his knees, it becomes perfect. Right? So while it may not look like a classic lift, it becomes a classic lift if you stop the video at the knees. At the knee, yeah. Right?
I got you.
He's covering the bar. He's not, there's nothing crazy happening at that point.
So what you're saying is, he obviously practices doing the lift correctly, and so when he's really, really, really fatigued, it happens naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. That's a good point.
And it's that's part of the reason why we try and drill the hang position. At the knees, because if your body knows where to go in that position, I almost don't care how you pull it off the ground. As long as there's no,
no craziness.
Yeah. As long as there's no arms bent, there's no back rounding or anything else. I almost don't care on a workout like that. I almost don't care how you get it to your knees, but we need our guys to know that once they get it there, the same thing's going to happen every time.
Right. So, no shenanigans coming off the floor and then do it right. And that's, I think, that's reasonable.
That's what she said.
Well, okay. Took me a second there, but you got it. Right?
I totally nailed that one.
You made up for earlier, I think, on
that
one. But, it is a little bit different than when you're snatching, an endurance situation than, when you're just trying to do a max.
You know what? I'm going to turn the tables. What do you think? I'm sure you've been asked this before. What do you think about high rep Olympic lifts?
I'm glad they're part of CrossFit, to tell you the truth. And the reason I'm glad is because if high rep Olympic lifts were never included in CrossFit, I don't think CrossFit would be as weightlifting crazy as it is now. And the fact that CrossFitters love to do weightlifting is, I think it's wonderful. I think that a lot of weightlifting purists find a lot of fault with that because people are using sloppy technique and throwing the bar everywhere and they're like, this guy's going to get hurt and the snatch wasn't meant for that. The thing I would always say to that is, you know what? Good weightlifters do the snatch correctly. Good CrossFitters, by and large, do the snatch correctly. They have good technique. Whether it's an endurance situation or whether it's a 1-rep max situation, they're very consistent with their technique and they're snatching big weights, By the same token, beginner CrossFitters that, don't have any real coaching in the Olympic lifts, they often do an abomination of the snatch. But you go to a few local weightlifting meets, you're going to find weightlifters who lift horrendously. Okay, so I think some of the attitude that a few people, I think weightlifters are more and more very pro CrossFit, almost across the board. But the fault that people do find, sometimes I want to say, okay, go to 2 or 3 local weightlifting meets and tell me if you find universally great technique. You won't. You just won't. And so, some of the criticism, I think, whether it be high rep or maximum weights or anything, I think is kind of unjustified. It's if every single weightlifter that was competing in the United States had wonderful snatch technique and then another group over here looked like crap, I think, well, at that point you can maybe say, well, you guys need to learn how to lift. That might have been true in 2009, 2008, I don't know, but it's not true today. It's just not true. I mean, I saw the video that you had up of some guy snatching 140 who's a CrossFitter, and then you had another video or mentioned a guy that's snatching 150 as basically a 94 kilo CrossFitter.
Oh, is that Paul? That might have been Paul Estrada.
Estrada, yeah. Or Estrada, is there an
Estrada,
S?
Yeah.
Estrada.
No S.
Yeah, okay.
He's not plural.
Paul Estrada, no S. But, I mean, those guys have very good technique compared to good weightlifters in the United States. I don't think the criticism is really valid anymore, and they have good technique despite doing 30 rep snatches. And so
yeah, I mean, you're a strength and conditioning guy, right? So basically, at some point we all are. So from a strength and conditioning standpoint, why not? If the technique is there, if it's not an injurious movement, why not do high rep snatches? I mean, is there a better movement on earth? In your opinion, is there a better movement as far as from a overall development of mobility, strength, speed, everything else? Is there a better movement on earth?
When you put everything together, if you talked about a better metabolic cost type of thing, I mean, what's going to be the hardest thing you can do? I would say, in general, just picking something up off the floor and putting it over your head. I mean, how can you use your body any more completely than that? But when you talk about speed and flexibility and add those two things in, I would say now you're talking the snatch, because a snatch requires more speed and flexibility by far than lifting a rock over your head or an axle or anything else like that. And so when you look at the complete package that includes the flexibility and strength, no, I really don't.
So basically what the decision we've come to is that every human should snatch.
Well, of course.
All right.
I didn't just come to that decision. I mean, I've held that opinion for a while.
Well, I just meant for
I'm glad to have brought you into the fold here.
Trust. I've been in the fold for a long time. I just mean for the consuming public. Now they know that there is no doubt.
Yeah, if you want to, I mean, I don't think there's a movement that really contests someone's overall complete athletic ability as much as the snatch. I mean, you could say something like I said, lifting a rock overhead. I mean, you got to be mighty strong to lift a huge rock overhead, but you don't necessarily have to have speed and flexibility. The clean and jerk measures your strength much better, but it doesn't require the same flexibility. So, I mean, yeah.
I've got another one for you. Overall. You know what? They just keep coming. Why do you think that collegiate level strength conditioning programs won't teach the snatch?
Because I don't know how, by and large.
Okay.
Well, any strength and conditioning coach in college or in the pros or anything, they're going to teach what they're good at. They have a tool that they know how to use, and they're going to use it. And I think not all. I mean, there's some great strength conditioning coaches out there that are very good with the Olympic lifts, but I think a large proportion are not very proficient at teaching the snatch or the clean and jerk, for that matter.
Do you think
when you're not good at teaching it, why would you attempt to use it?
Do you think that athletes would be better served to snatch than, I don't know? I mean, you can't really take the bench press away. You can't really take the power clean away. Do you think that the teaching the full lifts would develop athletic potential better than sort of the NCAA pro football whatever version of strength and conditioning?
If you have people that know how to teach it, that'd be the caveat that I'd use. I think the full lifts are great, but they have to be taught fairly correctly in order. Now, here's the thing: you get some kid that he has a 500-pound back squat, and he only snatched 200 pounds. Is that an exercise that's really going to make him jump higher and run faster? And all that? Probably not, because he's so bad at it that he is using such a small percentage of his overall strength that it doesn't become a great tool to get stronger, faster, more explosive. On the other hand, you take somebody that back squats 500 pounds and they're snatching 350. Okay. At that point, the snatch is a great tool. It's a great tool. So it is dependent on the proficiency of the lifter doing it. And when you talk about these lifters getting taught by strength coaches in a sport, it's dependent on the coach to show them how to do it correctly so that, as they go along in their career, it is a useful movement to them.
So do you think that the development of the full lifts, especially the snatch, it's too involved of a process to teach it to an athlete?
I don't, but again, the reason I don't is that's my job and I do it all day and I think I'm fairly good at it. But some strength and conditioning coaches are not going to fall into that camp, I realize I'm really not giving a hard and fast answer here, but I think it is really dependent on the coach's proficiency at turning their athletes into kids that can use a reasonably high percentage of their squat in the snatch exercise. If you can do that, you're good at that, and you can teach 19 out of 20 football players how to do a good snatch and utilize the exercise correctly, then it becomes a great strength conditioning tool. If you can't do that, then I don't think it's going to be a movement that works for you. But I think the best case scenario is that the coaches are good at that and they can fully utilize the exercise, because I think, pretty much nothing beats it. But if you can't coach it, it's not gonna be a great tool.
For me, it's the development of as I watch these guys grow, as I've watched these numbers kind of, especially over the last 2 years, really kind of go through the roof for our guys. And I've seen the muscle up numbers go up at the same time. And I've seen, just overall, I've seen people, this sounds far fetched, but I've seen people run better. I've seen people, just do things easier as their lifts have gotten bigger.
Yeah.
And it's like we were talking about before, the guys with the biggest snatches are usually the guys with the most muscle ups, depending upon body weight.
One thing I think the Olympic lifts do in general is they teach you how to use your body. You can't do them well without knowing how to use your body, and just in a general way. In a general athletic, how do you extend your hips? How do you change directions? How do you exert force very quickly? And when you know how to extend your hips and create force quickly, and you know how to change directions, and you can coordinate your body to do a movement like that and do it well, it carries over to a lot of other things. It's simple. Motor learning theory tells us that, being able to do one thing very well helps us with our ability to do a related activity very well. And all the things in the snatch that you have to learn how to do and get better and better at to snatch better are things that are easily utilized on a wide variety of other activities.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I just think that once you get an athlete utilizing more of their contractile potential and their rate of force development starts to increase. I don't know how you'd measure that, but they snatch more. They snatch more weight.
It's measurable on like a force plate and things like that. And those things have to improve if you want to go from a mediocre lifter to a great lifter. And I do think that it carries over into a lot of other things. And I think, but here's the thing, and you're telling me you're seeing the explosion in numbers on the Olympic list, particularly the snatch, and how that carries over. But that sort of thing, I think, is inevitable based on how CrossFit is set up. We're talking about CrossFit athletes and the numbers going up. CrossFit is a great American system of competition. And because the Olympic lifts seem to carry over so well to the rest of things people have to do in CrossFit, and in order to win at CrossFit, you've got to be pretty damn good at the Olympic lifts. As the games comes and goes every year, and people more and more see that is a very key aspect, you've got hundreds, thousands of athletes, hundreds, thousands of coaches that go home every year with the thought that if I don't figure out how to be a better snatcher and clean and jerker, if I don't figure out how to get my athletes to be a better snatcher, we're going to lose next year. And, you know, and so it's just competition between a wide variety of people to